Hey, howdy, hey, I'm Alan. Today we're drinking another Gyokuro from Hibiki-An. This is their organic Gyokuro. Let's just kind of dive in here. So the leaf, I'm actually kind of impressed with the consistency of color. Now, I've observed Gyokuros where an even consistency didn't mean that the tea tasted good, so we'll just kind of roll with it and see what happens. But the appearance is very promising. There is consistency of color. The pieces of leaf are relatively large, not too much crushed leaf in there. So let's go ahead and get this going. The first steep takes a while, so I'll dive into more stats in a second, but so I've got 6 grams per 100 ml, so a total of 12 grams of leaf here for this 200 milliliter pop. There we go. And room temperature water. So I'm going to get that going. Get ready for the timer. Okay. Ooh, almost didn't get enough water. All right, perfect. So I'll let that go for 14 minutes. I'll be back right before, so we'll see you soon. All right, and we're back. We are passing 13 and a half minutes, so get everything ready for tasting. So one thing I didn't mention was the aroma of the dry leaf. It smelled of like fresh cut alfalfa. Was the main scent aroma I picked up. Here we go. Classic thick gelatinous texture. Ooh, very thick. Let's get that getting hot. Try to drip it, but all right, let's see what the wet leaves smell like. Okay, there's a interesting sweetness. It's a very nice aroma. It's like the steamed spinach notes that are there are light with this yummy sweet note. So it doesn't have the heaviness of the aroma that would smell like defrosted steamed spinach. It's like a very lightly, maybe blanched spinach. Very nice. Almost a slight nutty note. In a way, the sweetness has this depth that kind of has this hint of like a nutty toast or maybe some seeds, like a sunflower seed or something. All right, so the liquor, I would actually call this a broth because of how thick and gelatinous that broth is. The particles that are in there are suspended. They aren't settling down. They're just held up by the thickness of it. Color, it's a yellow, not too green. It's definitely more on the yellow sides. All right. Been a bit since I've had a Gyokuro, so excited to taste this. Cheers. Okay, I would say that this is more on the brighter end of the Gyokuro spectrum. It's not one that makes me want it to melt into the warmth. While there's umami, it's not like the main note. I would say that at least for this first steep, it's on the brighter. almost like an interesting tartness. Interesting. It's just very bright. There is the astringency I'm feeling kind of on the sides of my tongue. Moving it around, trying to coat everything. Some pleasant bitterness on the underside of my tongue that I pick up. Trying to see, I'm not getting any algae notes. But, so this, it was very bright. Okay, interesting. So, anyway, let's add a little heat and see what that brings out. So we're gonna do as low temperature as I can, so 60 degrees Celsius for steep 2. And we're gonna do for 1.5 minutes. And I don't want it particularly foamy, so I'm pouring gently. And we'll see what that brings out. All right, so while that's going, some of the stats. So this is the season they don't disclose. So I would assume that it's either this year, so 2019 or 2018 picking, and would be a spring first flush picking. But that's an assumption because they don't fully disclose that. The cultivar they do, it's a Gokou, which is the same as their premium and their super premium variety of Gyokuro, so it's the same cultivar as those. And they also don't really disclose the location where this came from. I kind of had to read between the lines, but I can at least say it's from the Kyoto region of Japan. Infer that maybe it's from Uji, but the way they word it by just saying, okay, Gyokuro was invented in Uji, that doesn't really tell me that this came from Uji. But so it's most likely a Kyoto region, Japan, without saying the specific place. I'm getting ready to, there's 1.5 minutes. They provided an interesting phrase for that the Japanese use for organic. They said it's Daichi, tono, Kakutoh, basically meaning a lot of time and energy was put into this tea process. Okay, interesting. Let me get this back on here. We're gonna increase it 5 degrees. Okay, all right. So with a little heat added, definitely getting more of the steamed spinach versus the light blanched or maybe sauteed spinach. There's an interesting, almost toasted, well, not toasted, but there's like a seed or a nut note that I'm picking up. Or I am now identifying a light algae note, so it could be that algae marine because of its particular intensity, which is very light. I'm confusing it with a nuttiness in it. But all right, let's see what the broth tastes like. Looks like a little bit more, only a little bit more green. I'm used to when I add heat that it's a noticeable difference in color, but this is actually pretty similar. Not as much green chlorophyll came out in this. Still got some good thickness. All right, cheers. Okay. Not as bright, so it's a little bit more in that warming, more warm flavor notes. More umami, definitely, than in the cold brew. Trying to pick up, not getting a whole lot of algae note on the taste. Yeah, it's very, very light as far as any algae notes. Algae or seaweed. Very light. I am getting dryness. A lot of dry astringency. It's not as tart on the sides of my tongue, this one, but it is noticeably drier. All right, so let's go for steep 3. This is at 65 degrees, and we'll do it for the same amount of time. Do 1.5 minutes. You'll see how many this can handle. And steep 3 tends to be where the off flavors come out, at least with the ones I've had before. Okay, so while that's going, some of the other stats. Price range, this is 28 cents a gram for what I paid for. So that's only 1 penny more a gram than their premium. So it's kind of right in that threshold there. And I would say that they priced that well. So 28 cents a gram is $7.49 an ounce. So this session is only $3.36. So to me, even though it's like an expensive tea, it's still an affordable beverage. I mean, I'm getting a whole lot, and it's less than $3.50 for it, and I'm gonna end up with a pint or more of beverage. So I say it's worth it. Kind of look over. I think that's all the stats. We're getting approaching to the 1.5 minutes. This is the 11th Gyokuro now that I have reviewed. I do have to put a little disclaimer now. I had a Facebook memory pop up that apparently a year ago I had a Gyokuro from Tivana. I had forgotten that Tivana was actually the first Gyokuro I had ever had. I thought Mayleaf's was. So I guess that's a perk of Facebook memories, is it reminds you of things you forgot about. So Tivana was my first, so I guess technically, even though this is the 11th tea I've reviewed, it is the 12th Gyokuro I've ever had. But I can't repurchase Tivana tea, so it doesn't even count anymore. So anyway, all right. Okay, definitely starting to get into the overcooked smell, overcooked range of smell. Okay, and beyond that, there's not anything of note on the aroma beyond it's starting to smell like it's being overcooked. Still a lot of good particles suspended in the liquor there. This one does look greener while still being on that yellower side. But let's see what that tastes like. Yeah, still some good thickness, even though this is the 3rd steep and it's runnier progressively, it's still pretty thick. Anyway, all right, cheers. Still some good umami coming out. So it's at least high quality enough that it's enduring multiple steeps. I'd say some more of the bitter notes are coming out. Very light, pleasant though. So I'm finding this phrase where it's like present but pleasant. Still dryness. It's a very drying tea. And I would say a touch more algae notes are coming out. But just a touch. It's still very light on the algae. Not much on the aroma of the dry cup to talk about. It's basically aromaless. Very dry aftertaste. Okay, let's see if this can handle 4. So we're gonna go up to steep 4. We're gonna do another minute and a half, this time at 70 degrees. So I've added another 5 degrees. So at the very least, it's enduring. It's also nothing unpleasant. It is definitely in a good price range, especially for something organic, which tends to have a premium. At 28 cents, this is a very good price point for Gyokuro. I'd say you're getting a lot of good bang for your buck. So, all right. I think we'll just kind of sit with the tea while it brews for now. If you ever watch Mayleaf's videos, essentially an extended bumbala moment of what they call it, or just a nice minute of meditation, just quietly sitting with the tea while it brews. Let's move that over because it's kind of dripping. It is thinner. You can kind of see where the water, instead of being a nice, even in the slower stream, where it's breaking apart. It's not staying one solid thing all the way down. So it's definitely thinning out. I'm going to increase this just in case, but we'll see. Okay. It's actually almost the aroma's basically, while still there, I'd basically say it's dissipated. I have to get my nose really deep in there and to try to pick it up. And basically it's just really overcooked greens is what the aroma has. More transparent. Let's see, yeah, if I put it down, I can see through it down to the drip tray. Still some good suspended particles in there. Noticeably thinner, still in that yellow range, so not too much chlorophyll came out in this particular Gyokuro. All right, cheers. I would say 4 steeps is kind of where it's at. It's now distinctly more watery in the flavor. There's not as much umami. While it's still present, would definitely say 4 the max. It wouldn't go for 5. Still very drying on the tongue. Very drying. Cotton mouth for sure. But I'm very happy that there's no fishiness. The algae notes that are there are very mild. Basically, it's a very well balanced. While on the brighter end, there's not a lot of anything that's kind of poking out, saying, I taste like fish, or I taste like a punch of umami in the face. It's just a very balanced. I take that back a bit. The thing that is sticking out is the dryness. It is a very dry tea. Very dry. But flavor-wise, very pleasant, very balanced. So, all right, I'll be satisfied at 4 steeps. I am getting this hint of a kind of a minty coolness coming out, which is interesting. I don't recall if I got that in any of the other Gyokuros. I definitely did in like the rock oolongs and the pu'ers, but I don't remember if that was a feature of the other Gyokuro. Let's see what the encore tastes like. What all the blends together, what their harmony, what that all provides. All right, cheers. Very nice. Definitely would say it's very approachable, a very balanced, very pleasant. Very bright. Definitely on the brighter ends of the Gyokuros that I've been tasting. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So I would at least be happy. I'm happy to say that for those who go towards organic as the selling point, sometimes just because it's organic doesn't mean it tastes good. Like I've had some organic apples that just tasted like crap. I can at least be happy saying that this hits the marketing of being organically grown and it's got good flavor. I would say that the dryness is a bit much for me. It's distractingly dry, I guess is how I could put it. I'm definitely aware I have had a green tea. It's very drying. But other than that, very good, especially at this price point. Very good, high quality, delicious Gyokuro. So I guess with that, I'll go ahead and sign off. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining me. Take care.